Sai Ishwarai. The world is really in turmoil as we see a lot of catastrophic, man-made catastrophic incidents happening. It's very important we share our prayers to with all the ones those who are getting affected with the current crisis. Let's join in and do this Sai Ishwarai. Om Sai Ishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tannah Sarvah Prachodayat. Om Sai Ishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tannah Sarvah Prachodayat. Om Sai Ishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tannah Sarvah Prachodayat. Om Sai Ishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tannah Sarvah Prachodayat. Om Sai Ishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tannah Sarvah Prachodayat. Om Sai Ishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tannah Sarvah Prachodayat. Om Sai Ishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tannah Sarvah Prachodayat. Om Sai Ishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tannah Sarvah Prachodayat. Om Sai Ishwaraya Vidmahe Satyadevaya Dhimahi Tannah Sarvah Prachodayat. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Mugam karoti vachalam pangum langhate girim yatkripatamam bande paramananda madhavam. Oh Swami, please think through me, feel through me, speak through me, act through me, behave through me, conduct through me. Sai Ram. Om Sai Ram, brothers and sisters. I'm sorry, last session I could not join because I was on a transit, and I'm sure you had a lovely session then. Usual reminders, very poignant reminders for the weeks, for the days ahead, because it's important that we get these booster doses. After getting the vaccine dose, now the booster dose is important that we remain immune. Let's move on with this session and get tuned to God, as we have named it a few sessions back. That these moments when we come together are basically a reminder for us to get re-anchored, into and tighten our spiritual moorings, so that we don't get swayed away by the waves and winds of the world that smashes us throughout the week, in various demands, stresses us, elongates us, tests our elasticity, and that's where we need these moments to come together, realign, retighten them, and stay absolutely focused to the divine lotus feet. Satsang, a great bridge where we can try to connect to the source from which we have all emerged into different individuals. Bhagwan said, I separated myself from myself to know myself. So it's important to understand we are an image of the divine. And Satsang helps us to establish that connection, the broken link, so that we can reconnect to God, reroute ourselves to Bhagwan, and try to, salvage whatever we have lost in the preceding days or weeks due to the engagements with the world. Now again, everything is His creation. The whole thing, the whole game of creation and us coming into is a master plan where we all have been brought in due to various prarabdha, sanchit karmas, bringing in a portion of prarabdha karma and then working it out in this life, as we have done that extensive session of destiny and prarabdha and all that. So very important is how we do it, how we make the best use of it, and knowing the impacts that it's going to have, every action, thought, word, and deed is going to have in our accumulation of, sanchit karma. So whatever we are doing is going to impact the agami karma, which will again become a part of the sanchit karma once we leave this world. So it's very important to understand, to reconnect, so that we try to minimize that excess baggage that we have, and slowly and surely moving towards his lotus feet, we'll be able to redeem and cancel all that that is existing as a balance. Now, for doing that, it's important that we don't swerve, we don't sway, we remain focused, and we remain absolutely pointed at one place. Just as when we want to dig water, we can't go staggering 10 feet, 10 feet. Rather, we must dig at one place 100 feet. All right. It's an important lesson. It's a very important spiritual parlance. This particular digging of the well makes it connects us to understand that we get immediately, dejected when certain things, we sit down with God to ask for his favor, on certain problems that we face, and we don't get an answer to the liking that we want. We start digging into new places. We get into a new temple, a new guru, a new master. All right. The spiritual world doesn't work that way. It doesn't last that way. So it's very important. Fidelity and complete surrender, complete focus with one Lord, one pointedness is absolutely important if you want to drive home and get him onto us. And that's where Bhagavan says, you take one step and I'll take 100. And that one step is extremely important. This is not a step that we're talking about in physical realm, but the step of bhakti, the step of love, the step of divine love, the step of surrender. And once we do that, once we show him, once we prove him, and once we earn his trust that yes, we are ready, the God is always waiting and standing by. It's like sunrise. The sun has risen, the light is spread around. Until we open the windows, it will not come in. It's just waiting there. So God's love and warmth is just waiting. It just needs that window to open. And that's where this is important. We remain focused, one pointed, right? And otherwise, if we tend to get, jumping across and not putting a one pointed focus, we might lose him just at the time when we are going to get him, right? I am reminded of that small Chinna Katha which Bhagavan was saying when Parvati and Shiva were, talking, and then they saw that one of the devotees was on one of the branch, and he was cutting the branch, okay, and he was cutting the branch on the same wind which he was sitting, and then Parvati said, we have to stop him, otherwise he's going to fall. Lord Shiva said, no, not that way, let's do it this way, so that if he calls Appa, then Lord Shiva says, I will rush and help him so that it doesn't fall down. If he calls Amma, then you go then. The man who was cutting the branch like one of us was so engrossed in cutting that, and he didn't have that one step that we were talking about to take towards God. So when he actually cut the branch, he was going to fall. He neither called Appa nor Amma. He said, Ayyo. And then neither of them went to save him. And this is what happens to us, right? We don't remember him. We don't remember him all the time, so that when the time comes actually to depart, actually a catastrophe to happen, just think it within yourselves. We have come across different problems and challenges. Have we remembered Swami's name or our master's name when we had a problem? When something went wrong in the office? When a son or a daughter did not get through an exam? When somebody did not get a promotion? What was the first reaction? It was not, thanks Swami, whatever happens, happens for the best. It was, why the hell did this happen, right? And that's exactly what happens with us. We are tested silently and we fail quite violently, most of the times. So it's very important to understand we have to remain focused, drive it with one pointedness, so that we come towards closer and closer towards him, right? Meditate upon one name and one form. That's what Bhagavan says. And when we do that, ek asan, ek naam, ek mantra, ek japa, ek astha, ek nishtha, ek Bhagavan, ek Ishwar, ek Satya Sai. When we do that, when we show our loyalty, our fidelity, our love for the Divine Master, of course he responds. Though it is not necessarily he will respond to the liking that we have, but he will respond to make sure, even if there is a turbulence across, you remain unruffled, you remain absolutely calm, weathering the storm without any issues. That's what the grace does, right? So it's important that we choose Him, we remain focused to Him, and then move on. So these satsang sessions, some of the sessions where you listen to Swami's discourses, when you listen to his bhajans, when you attend his bhajans, when you do a seva, all these are a part of satsang. That means you are trying to, sat and sang is connecting to that changeless truth in some form, either through shravanam or through nididhyasanam or through, kirtanam or through service. We are trying to connect to him, right? And then that helps us to, get closer to him and make him respond to us. Again, how we sit, how we do, how we listen, how we participate is extremely important part for us. It must be with full focus and attentiveness, right? When you are doing something, when you are listening something, it must be absolutely focused attention. It must be with full faith, right? It's not about belief. There's a big difference between belief and faith, right? Belief does not allow you to cross to the stage of faith. Belief is something that somebody else is doing, and as long as they are doing, you're clapping, it's fine. It's simple, like we see this guys who do a rope walking, the tight rope walking. They put two pillars, they hang a rope, and they're walking on that. And then once they start walking, they start with a wheel. They start riding the wheel, and then they take one of their child, in his own son, a small child, and then holds the child and starts walking. And he says, "Are you enjoying it?" Everybody says around, "Yes, we are enjoying it." "Do you like it?" "Yes, we like it." "Do you believe that I am doing it without any problem?" They said, "Yes." Okay. And then he says, "Are you 100% sure that I will not drop the baby?" They say, "Yeah, we are 100% sure you will not drop the baby because you are doing it well." And then the guy turns around and says, "Okay, there was one spectator with a baby." He says, "Okay, hand me over your baby. I'll do the same thing." Now the spectator says, "Oh, okay, let's take a step back. No, it's fine as long as you are doing it." And that's where the belief and the faith shows the colors. All right. And most of the times we enjoy the show outside the ring, clapping around, but when it comes to us, we fail the test because we have not given 100% faith and trust. So it's an important part, brothers and sisters. We have to understand how we sit, how we be in a satsang or any one of the sessions, right? It's important to understand whether what we pray and how we pray is reaching the God, right? There was this, what do you call it? A church was being constructed, and there were a lot of people who were constructing it, right? When the church was getting completed, there was also, there were a lot of laborers, and there was one particular guy who was building the church with a lot of affection that this is where my Lord is going to reside. This is what I'm building, is every brick that I'm putting up is for my Lord. And as he was doing with that feeling, the day it was completed, he was too much enthusiastic to have a look how it looks finally with the paint and interiors done. And that day when the inauguration was happening, there was who and who's of the town who was being invited, include the VIP. Now this guy, he also went. He had tattered, shirt and rags on his body because he was a poor guy. He was a laborer who built the church. Now when he was going into the church, the sentry, the guys at the watch, the security watches, they stopped him and said, "Hey, where are you going?" Because that day only the VIPs and all the suit boot guys were getting an entry into the church. Now he came back, he realized he cannot see the Lord, and he was crying, sitting under a tree, and crying and crying. And then somebody came and patted on his shoulder and said, "My child, why are you crying?" And looked back, he saw Lord Christ standing there. And then he says, "The Lord, I wanted to have your darshan inside. They're not allowing me." Now mark these words. This is one of the stories where Bhagavan has said, and mark these words. Lord Christ told him, "My child, they're not even allowing me inside. And that is why I have come to give you the darshan." Brothers and sisters, what does this say? This says that when we do our actions of worship, which is ritual, we go with all the paraphernalia and we do everything thinking that it is being received by the Lord, but actually it is not. If any of these processes devoid of love, affection, surrender, faith, trust is offered, I don't think it reaches Bhagavan. It's very important. We must understand that complete faith is important. All right. So when we are listening and sitting into a satsang, it's very important we do that, and that starts building up a pining for the Lord. We're yearning to see him, to hear him, yeah, to love him, to be with him. It's an important part of a journey. Every day we must leave some time where we are only and solely with him, thinking about him, with no agenda, with no prayers that if I do this, you give me this, or Lord, please do this. Let that be no reason or season for loving God. Those few moments, if you spend daily, will be able to restore and keep that particular channel of connection absolutely ready whenever we want. So it's an important practice we must do. And pining is one of the very, very important gateways where we can get connected. Yearning and pining. All right. So it's important how we sit in satsang or in bhajans or in seva, completely with total pointedness, not like a dosa pan which is simmering hot. And when you put water or oil splatters, it just start boom. You can see that, right? And water, it just vaporizes. Some of us, we sit with a lot of stress in our life, lot of things happening in the world. We sit down in the bhajans thinking only about that. So any prayers, anything, any effects which comes onto that hot dosa pan, which is the mind, which is so hot now, just vaporizes, nothing retains. Are we sitting like a dewdrop, which is retained in the beautiful mornings, but then one wind comes and moves it off? So sometimes we sit like that. For a little while, we get some benefit out of it. But the moment we come out of the bhajans, the moment we come out of the satsang or the seva, any unfavorable act by an opponent or an individual disturbs our peace. So it's like a dewdrop, it doesn't last. Let's sit down with so much of focus so that a raindrop can turn into a pearl, like it happens in the oyster. So when we are sitting and absorbing so much that it takes and embeds into our being, that particular bhajan, so that the bliss of that can last longer and forever. So it's important that how we make use of this sessions. When in one of the darbars where Maharaja Akbar, King Akbar was having, Guru Nanak Dev was also being called in that darbar. And during that time, there were various saints and Muslim scholars who were presenting different faith, different point of views, and they were talking about it. And suddenly Guru Nanak started laughing. Guru Nanak Ji, when he was laughing in the sense he was smiling, and then King Akbar, he said, "Why are you smiling? They're talking about all this philosophy." And then he says, what's the point in talking about it when your mind, what's the point in you sitting and enjoying it when your mind is busy in that kingdom, in that, there was some issue going on with the sun. There was something going on. And he said, what's the point in sitting in this when your mind is not present, you are thinking about something else. So it's very important where we are, how we are, we must be fully, anchored that point of time. And that is what truly Sravanam is. And when we do that kind of Sravanam, Mananam becomes easier, and Nidhi Dhyasanam, that means the practice, becomes much easier. Why? Because it has taken a deep-rooted, place into our being, right? So it's important, brothers and sisters, we must understand that how we sit, how we get absorbed into a particular satsang or a bhajan or a Swami Seva activities carries a lot of weight as far as the impact goes. Moving on, a big question that we always put this forward is, as Bhagwan said, the whole gambit of this organization, of these activities, of the avatar coming in, has been to help us to realize rekindle the divinity within. We must understand the divine is within us. We must become one with him, right? That's why Bhagwan says, Divya Atma Swarup Lara. But there are challenges, because the whole thing is, when we come back, we come into this world with a body, right? And that body has got associations. That body has got relations. And then from no body, you becomes anybody, and then somebody, and then everybody. So we are going into so many phases where instead of expanding in spirituality, we start expanding our eyes, smaller, bigger, 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 and very big eye. So we become multiple identities created in our existence, right? And that is where a child born cries out Koham, in the sense, what it symbolizes is, who am I? Because the infinite soul has been encased into a limited being, the whole soul cries out, where I am, who am I? Because that's part of the journey which starts from the childhood. but unfortunately gets buried into a false narrative that I am Bindu, or I am Sis Jayanti, or I am somebody. That is what we have to realize. The whole quest is that from this small I to the big I. Now, this Koham, Bhagavan says, as we proceed into the spiritual path, must lead us into Aham Brahmasmi. That means realize that we are all the sparks of the divine and the same Sai exists within us, to the journey called Soham. That is, I am He, I am He, I am He. Right? So it's imperative. We cannot divorce this particular fact from the rest of the spiritual activity do, because whatever we do, we must realize has to help us to blend, dissolve our egos, just smash it out so that we become one with the divine, so that there is no two eyes which exists after that. Right? So Koham to Soham is the journey that we embark upon, and remembering that we are not the human beings trying to have a spiritual experience. It's a reminder that we are spiritual beings having a human experience. There's a complete dimensional shift in both the statements, and the outlook changes the moment you realize. And that's why Bhagavan stopped the Pad Namaskar also, saying that you are even God. Right? So it is something that has to sink into us and understand. The whole struggle is because we think we are human beings trying to have a trying to have a spiritual experience. But when we think and believe, when the Master says Divyatma Swarup that we are spiritual beings having a human experience, I think all these fallacies, the deviations, the problems, the challenges will start melting away, in the sense that we will have a broader perspective to life. We'll start understanding in the right perspective. All right. So this is an important part of the journey, Koham to Soham. Every being, knowingly, unknowingly, is in this journey. Whether we are aware or we are not aware. If we are aware, we can take lesser number of time to reach the goal. If we are not aware, we are still into that journey of evolution. We still have to go into this till we realize the God within. All right. Yeah. So the biggest barrier is the ego, the I, that the false identification we have created, or the associations we have created. And Bhagavan says the conquest of the ego is a hard task. Years of persistent effort, persistent minded are needed to get success. Think of this example. Have you tried breaking the coconut as soon as it comes from a tree? Have you tried breaking it? The shell is covered by a coat of fiber. You cannot break the nut even by striking with a crowbar. Take off the fibrous armor, break it. When you take the coconut to be offered in temple, remove the fiber and then offer to God, right? By breaking it. This is a symbol of destroying ego and surrendering. Now, whenever we are going to temples, mind it, whenever you're offering coconut in the temples or at home, wherever, please be reminded of this particular symbolism attached to the breaking of the coconut, where he says that when you offer it, it is a symbol of destroying the ego and surrendering to the Lord. Can we do that? Can we think in this manner whenever we are offering these kind of things? If you're peeling the skin off an orange or something that you're offering, again think that we're peeling off the ego. It's an important that Bhagavan said, even for the vegetables cutting, you're chopping your ego. How importance he has given for ego chopping in this journey. Both can't go. They are purak, they are opposite to each other. It's like when you're facing the sun, your shadow is behind. But when your back is on the sun, that means when you're facing the master, the God, the world is behind, the Maya is behind. That is, things will not trouble you because they are behind you. But the moment you turn your back towards God, back towards sun, the shadow is in front of you. That means the whole world rises in front of you, because you have turned your back to the master. Then the whole world is there in front of you. That's an important thing to understand as far as the ego goes. So also in life, Bhagavan says you must remove the fiber of desire for the sense objects, go before the Lord, devoid of desire and anger. There you declare that you are egoless by breaking the coconut into two. You are then accepted. Look at this word. You are then accepted, because as long as you are coming with an ego, with an identification that I'm so and so and not your servant. When Lord Hanuman was asked by Ravana where he went to, go and find out Sita, and he was caught and he was brought in front of Ravana. He said, "Who are you?" He said, "I am the servant of the Lord." What an introduction he gave, right? So this tells us that this is the same attitude that we need to carry. We are all his images. We are all his children. We are all working in his divine mission in some way as a squirrel, as a monkey, as a Jatayu, or even as a Vibhishana who was the Rakshasa from the Rakshasa clan, any one of these entities, as long as what we are serving, the motive is to serve at the feet of the Lord, I think we have done our job, right? So, brothers and sisters, it's important, and that's the only time when we break our ego and surrender. Hanuman means Hanan means you destroy. Man is ego, right? When you destroy your ego and surrender, of course, he takes you up, he embraces you, right? So this is the most difficult thing, but we have to practice. We have to be very mindful. Yes, we are on this worldly journey with certain duties that have been given. Yes, Bhagwan doesn't say you run away to the forest. That's not the dictum that he has given. He says while you are in the society, be always heads in the forest, hands in the society. That means forest is what? Forest is for rest. Remember, when you break the word forest, it's for rest. That means when you bring all your nitty-gritties, all your relationships, all your stress, all your thoughts, and multiple things, when you bring that to rest, that is symbolizes forest. That means when your mind is at rest. So head in the forest, that is calm, unruffled by all these thoughts, and hands in the society. That means we have to work out this life which has been given, for which we have come to clear our sanchit karmas, a load of prarabdha karmas. So that work has to go on. That's the way he has designed the whole play. All right. But ego plays a very important deterrent to our journey. And this is what something we have to be always mindful about. And ego comes out into different forms. It not necessarily into arrogance. Ego is sense of body attachment. When you get too much attached, when you get too much infatuated, when you get too much hooked on, when you start desiring too much, something, everywhere there's different forms of ego which manifests. And the moment we say that I'm not the body, or I start, Lord, please work through me, speak through me, act through me, conduct through me. If you sincerely look into this part of the prayer, it's so strong that you're giving the power of attorney and empowering him to work through you. And that's where your sense of attachment to your body and relationship and so on and so forth will start diminishing, because you're accepting that whatever he works through me, I will accept it. All right. So it's an important part that we got to realize. This is something which I was working, trying to connect on basically with the mind and ego and things. So, SBI, State Bank of India, ATM is anytime money, right? ATM. And when we try to connect that to our spiritual parlance, SBI is Sai Baba, the indweller. So for me, SBI is the biggest bank that we have is Sai Baba, our indweller, right? SBI. And ATM is anytime master. So just as you have an ATM 24 hours available, we have forgotten the ATM that we have, which is anytime master. He's available, I think, ever since the Kalatita, when the time started, Kala Kalaya Namaha. When it started, ever since he has been always standing by. It's us who have not been able to reach him, right? And then going to the next step, it was an interesting part where, trying to connect this mani moolam or mano moolam idam jagat. The whole world is a projection of the mind, and now mind is the whole projection, whole world as you see is projection of the money. Everywhere money matters. We have started making it so dominant. So from mani moolam or mano moolam idam jagat, we have to make sai moolam idam jagat. It's important that we convert, we change the whole dimension of looking into it as sai moolam. That is, we just think that is Sai, whose projections we are seeing everywhere. And then just as the demonetization happened, what did demonetization do was the same money ATM which was available to you all the time, we were not understanding its importance. We were not realizing how important it was. And for even 2,000 rupees, you had hours and hours of queue of people standing, right? We have all seen that, of course, with a higher purpose of whatever it was. But there was physical and, mental challenges. People were distressed. Money was locked up, right? The same money which was available, it was demonetization. Same where Bhagwan has taught us, brought us into demonetization. Just to rhyme it that way, it gives us to understand that even the mind has to be decimated, right? Demonetization. So the mind and the I, which is stopping, has to be demonetized. That means removed if you want to get closer and closer to Bhagwan, right? And then we will realize that the whole journey that we started, me and I, from from I to him was same. There was no difference at all, right? So it's an important part of a journey from I to Sai, where we have to annihilate the I to see the Sai, you know. And a lot of times we start looking into things perspective outside, that things are wrong there, or because of that I could not do it, or this. There was this guy, I think I've shared, I don't recall when, but there was this a couple in Mumbai, and they were staying in a house, and they got newly married, of course, and the wife used to get up in the morning, in the first few morning, and she used to say that, I mean, look at our neighbors, where have we got a house? The neighbors are keeping the house so dirty, as she looked in through the window that they had. And then again, the next husband used to say, just leave it, it's none of our business what to say about somebody else. The next day again, she used to crib and say that, look at how much dirty the house is. And the third day this happened. The fourth day, when she got up, she said, see, I was telling you, and you have told them that's how now the house looks clean. And the guy said, no, sorry, the house is same. What I've done is I've cleaned the window. There are a lot of dust which is collected in our window, which is making you believe that the house is dirty. And that's exactly what happens. Our whole perspective reading the world is through the eye, through the sense of ego, through the sense of all this, impurities that we have in our vision, that the whole world looks different. It's important to purify our vision, purify our being, so that everybody looks the same embodiment of divine, right? जिंदगी भर हम यही गुनाह करते रहे, धूल आईने में थी, धूल आंखों में थी, और हम आईना साफ करते रहे. वो in Hindi it says, that means I kept doing the same mistake the entire life. The dust was in my eyes, and I was cleaning the mirror all the time. So it's very important, brothers and sisters, that we must understand that we have to look within, annihilate the I, if we want to get closer to Sai. Before the beginning of the universe, I alone existed with nothing other than myself. And that's where we say, when a devotee asks, what motivated God to create the world, Bhagwan Swami says, God willed the world as his sport. Prakriti, the world is just a leela of the Lord set before you, so that you may become aware of his glory. Sitting alone would not have been fun for him, for the master. So he created the universe so that he can enjoy with the devotees and their love, right? And give us a chance to redeem us as we work through in our lives. So he separated myself to myself so that love. So look at the undercurrent the statement gives. I separated myself from myself to love myself. So what is the basis of separation? The basis of separation, brothers and sisters, is love, the divine love. He separated himself from himself to love himself, right? So when we look at this creation, the whole basis of the creation has been love. Where are we today? Let's introspect. Forget about what's going on in the conflicts. Think about our own selves, in our own fraternity, in our own families, in our own friends, in our own office. Bhagwan is separated for the love. Where are we? Okay, there might be challenges, but at least have we tried not to hate? That's a first step, small step of progression into this world of love. And this is an important part that hopefully now and the next session we'll try to take. I don't know whether we can continue much, but yes, that's the objective of carrying this particular session and the next one. Now look at this. He gave a prayer written to Brother Hislop, as we all know. Oh Lord, and in Singapore center, every bhajan, after every bhajan, this prayer is being recited, and it's such a powerful prayer, simple but so profound. Oh Lord, take my love and let it flow in fullness of devotion to thee. Take my love. That's the starting point of the prayer. Take my love, Bhagavan, because you created a whole creation out of love so that you can love, so that we can love each other. So take my love to let it flow in fullness of devotion to thee. Oh Lord, take my hands, let them work incessantly for thee. And what love does if love cannot serve? What love does if love cannot empathize? What love does if it cannot do any service to the forsaken? It's an important part of the next statement. It brings the service into it. Oh Lord, take my hands and let them work incessantly for thee. Oh Lord, take my soul. Now when you have loved and when you have served, you have blended your ego, because service is the biggest solvent for the ego, right? It blends your ego. It helps you to break the I and merge into the I with the other person, right? That's where you start seeing that Swami is serving from you or through you to another Swami in that individual. And then goes on to say, oh Lord, take my soul, let it be merged in one with thee. So when you're loved and you're served, love all, serve all, he is now praying that please allow my soul to merge into the super soul. So Jivatma can enter into the Paramatma. And that's why we write, when somebody departs, we write RIP, rest in peace with the Lord, right? That's an important part to understand. And then, oh Lord, there is a challenge which comes, my mind and thoughts. That's the biggest challenge as we are talking about merger. There is a guy who is stopping us. And that's called the I, the mind. The mind and thoughts, please them, let them be in tune with thee, right? So let that be in tune so that there is no, there is no out of sync as we are moving in that direction. Please also help me to mend my mind and thoughts and get connected to you and take my everything, oh Lord. The last line, take my everything. I'm nothing, Bhagavan. You have made me whatever you have. Take my everything, my mind, body, soul, mind, body, Atma, whatever you want, and let me be an instrument to work for thee. Now that is the climax of surrender. Let me be an instrument to work for thee. Now whether you want to play this instrument to basically serve, to take your name, to do the daily course of life, or to be a good professional or whatever, I'm just your instrument, Bhagavan, in every stages of life, in every steps of the life that we encounter on a daily basis. I'm just a servant. And that's where I bring in Lord Hanuman when he says, who are you? I'm the servant of the Lord. And when you say I'm an instrument, when Lord Rama was telling him that, go and find out Sita, there was no roadmap, no Google that Hanuman had, right? We can't switch on the GPS and say, okay, let's move on. And Hanuman said, yes, I will go, my Lord, as you say. But Lord Rama said, but you don't know where you have to go. Do you think it's easy? And he's a great Rakshasa. And Lord Hanuman says, that's your problem. You gave me a job to do, I'll go and do it. To give ability to the job is also your headache, because the moment you give me the job, you empower me with the capability to do the job. And that was the surrender, the faith that Hanuman had. He started off with a full faith, and rest is history, we all know. He accomplished the mission as was set by Lord Rama. And that's an important part. Until we surrender and go into that level of Samarpan, Sharanagati, we still remain far. And remember that Sharanagati cannot be Sharanarthi. That's an important statement we have spoken earlier. That means the one who is surrendered can never be a refugee. Okay? He will always be taken up by the God in his arms as we move into this journey of life. I think with that, brothers and sisters, we will try to end up this session and continue with the session on love the next time. Let's listen into Bhagavan, and hopefully we keep hooked on with this reminder on a day-to-day basis when we journey in life.
రాత్రి 12 వరకు కూడాను మనం చేసే సర్వ కర్మలు కూడాను ప్రేమమయంగానే ఉంటుండాలి. Right from dawn to dusk, all our deeds should be full of love. Start the day with love. Start the day with love. End the day with love. End the day with love. Spend the day with love. End the day with love. End the day with love. End the day with love. To God. It's the way to God. నీ హృదయాన్ని మొట్టమొదట ప్రేమతో నింపు. Fill your heart with love in the first instance. ఈ ప్రేమ చేతని నీ సర్వకర్మను ఆచరించు. With this love we should do everything. తెల్లవారి మొదలుకొని రాత్రి వరకు కూడాను ఈ సర్వకర్మలు ఎందుకు కూడాను ప్రేమతత్వాన్ని నీవు అనుభవించు. Dawn to dusk experience this love. ఇది ఏ నిజమైనటువంటి సందేశము. This is the true message.
This is the true message. Fill your heart with love. Fill our hearts with love. Because heart is such an important transmitter, brothers and sisters, of the vibrations. Ethereally, it connects people. Distance doesn't matter. Remember, when thoughts creates electrical impulse and the hearts create magnetic impulse. They both, when they are in sync, they create electromagnetic impulse, which can travel far. And then Bhagavan says, fill your heart with love. Because when this love radiates, it doesn't look into the time, or it doesn't get challenged by the distance. It just reaches wherever it has to reach. That's why you say thousands of miles away, your neighbor may be sick, but you're not even bothered so much as much you are 1,000 miles away. If your son or a brother or a sister or somebody is sick, you get so connected and hooked on. Why? Because they are more nearer to you and dearer to you, right? So it's important that we fill our hearts with love, start the day with love, fill the day with love, spend the day with love, end the day with love. And then what remains is only love, right? And that's the whole thing why she started. I separated myself from myself to love myself. So having done that, at least on that day, we would have achieved the purpose for which Lord has created this entire game of universe and all of us. With that, I think we end this session with Samastaloka. Om Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Samastaloka Sukhino Bhavantu. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. जय बोलिए भगवान श्री सत्य साईं बाबा जी की जय. Saram brothers and sisters, wishing you a great Sunday and lovely weeks ahead till we catch up again the next time with this Swami's chosen topic of love, rather divine love. Thank you. Sairam.
Saram, Saram, brother.
Sairam.
It's beautiful. Saram, brother. Thank you. Thank you. It's
Sairam.
beautiful. Thank you.
Sairam.
Sairam brother, thank you.
Sairam. Sairam.
Bye.